Hi, this is Adam, and I'm here with Karl, one of the guys, our Legion player in the DFW area, and we're going to talk about a Rhyas Blightbringer list that he's got. Say hi, Karl.
Hi, Karl.
Well done. So we've got a couple of different things. Blightbringer's just come out. We played a game a little bit ago. We're going to talk about how that game went and a bit about this list because it's kind of unique. Rhyas is kind of, I don't know. I remember when I first started, I started playing Legion, and everyone said, "Don't buy Rhyas because she's terrible." I mean, before Blightbringer came out, have you had kind of a similar experience?
Yeah, yeah, she has a long time been regarded as Legion's worst caster. She got Reach in an errata about year and a half ago, which helped her a little bit. It helps her be a little more dangerous, but Blightbringer, I think, is really going to do a lot in making her an actually viable competitive caster.
Because of the strength buff and the arm buff, is like one more favorable than the other?
Well, so Blightbringer pairs really well with Warspears because they love the strength buff, they love the arm buff. They even like the concealment and def debuff sometimes. I was thinking about casters. I wanted to just try all the casters that I know play well with War Spears. So Thagrush 1, obviously, Callus plays well with them. And then Rhyas, I guess I was thinking about her rearguard theme force, and it's actually kind of good just because it has so many kind of nuts bonuses.
That's the
So
new one with Typhon in it, right?
Typhon, yep, it gives them advanced move and stealth on the first turn. So they really get screaming up the table with dash and occultation to protect them. So I wanted to try this out, and it's worked pretty well so far.
Have you changed the list very much since we've played this?
I have because of trolls. So Legion has to have an answer for Runes of War, and Raptors are really, really good into that matchup just because they eat the Rune Shapers alive, and then they can chase down the stone.
So
So,
you drop the Legionnaires and Feralor for Raptors.
yep,
But you need one more point still, so
Succubus.
got it. Succubus comes out, and then you got 1 point left over or something.
Yeah, so it's a Shepherd, and then it's an ADR list because I pair it with the Lilith too. So when I've got the Black Crush Shard in my ADR, so when I'm playing against trolls, they come in.
Very nice. And you've done pretty well with that so far, then.
I played it about 5 times into trolls so far, and it's done pretty well.
Good. It's really interesting how it's more kind of like what does the list do for um, the War Spears, and less like how does Blightbringer help um, Reyes directly. It's more like all focused on the War Spears. So that's kind of interesting. On to my list. In this matchup we played, I'm not going to go too heavily into like how my list plays. I love this list. It's Issyria with Discordia and Imperatus, and Alara is running Hyperion. I've got two Arcanists, and then I've got Halberdiers with the UA and the Houseguard Thane. Um, Again, I absolutely love this list. This I think is not a great matchup for my army, but I was kind of figuring out this list. So we'll talk about this one another time. But that's kind of what I was playing. It's really weird for Retribution just because it has so many jacks in a typically jacklight faction, especially with Assyria.
I will say that I was kind of nervous about all the guns you could bring to bear, especially on a serious feat turn. Discordia's POW 14 spray, um,
Yeah, that's
Hyperion, kind of
that's
dishing out a
something
bunch of POW
I
12s.
change more in the other versions. Um, But yeah, so here's the game. I'm setting up on the left side. I believe that you were the won the role to go first, and I took the side of the trench, right there in front of the destruction scenario. And then after pre-deploy, you just set your guys out there. Did your deployment change very often with this list?
Uh, no, actually, I think after this game, we kind of sat down and, or I sat down and tried to figure out the best way to get kind of everything clustered around the Blightbringer as best as possible and still be able to not screw myself with order of activation issues next turn. Switching the Legionnaires for the Raptors helps out a lot because it makes it a much less central list because the Raptors are usually out on a flank. They don't. They get occultation. They don't really need the arm buff. They can charge in from forever away to get the strength buff when they need
Um,
it.
they don't really need dash. And I remember this game had some problems in the first turn keeping everything in dash. It didn't make that big of a difference, since both our list, neither of our lists were particularly fast. But
Right. Actually, it is pretty easy to get them dash in the first turn, and if you go second, so they have a 22-inch threat range then with dash. The deployment lines are 31 inches apart, so if your opponent runs stuff faster than 9 inches, then Raptors are shooting them bottom of one.
yeah, they can shoot pretty far. I don't like
Yeah.
Raptors. I mean, here you see me just kind of moving into the trench just because I'm trying to, protect myself from your guns. I know you said you were nervous about the guns that I could bear, but you've got a lot of guns in this list, dude. And also, they hit really hard. I had Discordia run up with the Imprint and Inviolable Resolve just to make sure that Discordia wouldn't die, because those guns can hit at POW 13 base, 15 under Blightbringer, and then 17 if they hit their prey target, right? Correct?
17 from Prey, and then if you have the Black Frost Shard, the POW 19.
Yeah. So those are really high POW guns. So on this turn, you ended up moving up a lot of your army, but especially the Legionnaires were a problem for me looking at this, because you use their mini feet and they've got is it defensive line or is it shield wall on the Legionnaires?
Defensive line, and then also set defense with Feral Lore.
Okay, so they get up to that armor 20.
22 under Blightbringer.
Okay, so they're pretty hard to deal with from ranged. A lot of times you have to get charges in to deal with them. So you had them move up after the Deathstalkers, made a couple shots, and Blightbringer as well. But I thought that they were kind of irritating for me to deal with looking at this matchup, because I kind of didn't have a lot of great tools to run to get rid of them, except for using halberdiers to charge in, which I didn't really want to do because I'm trading down from that, or getting a Hyperion crit on them. That's really what I had hope for, um, just to get them out of the way.
Right.
So they're really obnoxious. Except for the Raptors, have you thought about swapping them out for anything else?
No, actually, I wish I could bring them back, and I wish I had the points to put Incubi in them, because they are really obnoxious. They do a lot of good work.
Yeah, those guys.
Um,
You can buy a five
Especially for
points, right?
such a Incubi are 5 points, so then they get affected by Dash and Blightbringer too. So Matt, their POW 16 combo strikes.
So like Mechanothralls, but really, really good.
Yeah, Mechanothralls that are going to be delivered. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. So continuing on to the game, you'll see me here on this turn. I kind of move up some of my army, trying to check out some of the charge ranges.
Yeah, I actually kind of laid a trap for you here. I kind of wanted you to charge those 3 Warspears on the bottom with your Hyperion. Figured if you did that, I'd lose 3 Warspears, and then plus Blightbringer plus the other Warspears should pretty easily be able to pick up Hyperion.
And instead, I used the halberdiers here. I used the halberdiers here in a little bit after the Hyperion shoots. I used the halberdiers to charge in and try to do the same thing. And I ended up losing almost all my halberdiers in doing that on your turn. So I was, after watching this, I kind of thought about it. I was like, maybe actually using, giving up Hyperion there for those 3 War Spears, and then forcing your others to come in, and then moving the Halberdiers around behind Hyperion to charge it, whatever kills them, would have ended up being better. I don't know if that would have been the case.
Yeah, especially since I kind of stupidly gave up my Death Stalker right there. So I didn't really have a great way to kill them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you
I
didn't.
I think this is where you lost the game actually, because you mispositioned. You weren't thinking about Rhyas's feet.
Yeah, so we actually had to do this. This is basically 2 games in 1, because I realized, I am too close to Issyria with my halberdier. So you had an easy charge lane to get Rhyas to charge my halberdier, feet, get behind the halberdier, and then start making attacks on Issyria. That that was a big concern, because I had to make sure Issyria was at least 3 inches away from any model that Rhyas could charge, including Hyperion, which was also a big deal.
Uh-huh.
Have you gotten many kills just by doing
It's
that?
actually kind of interesting. I killed Doomshaper once, um, because in Runes of War they like to cluster all and hide him behind the wall, and then Rhyas was able to charge in and get him. Other than that, no. That's been pretty much it. But I do expect, people just aren't used to seeing Rhyas on the table. They're not used to her feet and where it can land her. I do expect to get kills that way.
Yeah, so I was kind of surprised there. Well, I wasn't really surprised. I just realized I made the mispositioning error, so we just pushed the halberdiers a little bit forward and said, okay, that's where I actually put them, so we could, continue the game
Arcanist
and
number
have it
one.
still be interesting
Uh huh.
instead of, oh, I just feed and kill you. So the game progresses and I thought that if I had taken that bait and moved Hyperion, and it might have been better just because Halberdiers would have been harder for you to, well, they would have done a lot of work and been harder to deal with. Like it's more volume of attacks, and then Hyperion does, so I've been able to clear out some of those War Spears. But with the War Spears, are you generally afraid of anything with this list?
I don't really like to see. I mean, it doesn't have a huge number of attacks, so uh, infantry swarms I'm not crazy about.
It's like Cricks typically.
Yeah, this would not be a good list to fight into Cricks.
Okay, so anything that hits hard with a lot of different volume, smaller
Volume
models.
attacks, yeah, Kador maybe. Some ret lists could be a problem.
I think if I played a more traditional Issyria list, this would have been very different. One or two jacks at most, and then Sentinels, Halberdiers, and anything else I could get in there, or
Yeah.
even Invictors would have been a better choice. Um, so moving back onto your turn, your Blightbringer, you decide you're going to kill Discordia, and your Blightbringer shoots and misses Discordia. So
Yeah.
it ended up being a big deal because the deviation puts it right on top of Imperatus, meaning that you don't get the strength buff whenever you charge Discordia. Have you had to like work a lot with the different targets when using that? I mean, it's an important shot, but later on you end up using your own shredder. But is that the common tactic that you've used?
I've done it a couple times. And this has really been the only time he's missed an important shot. You're at 6 boostable. He can usually hit when he needs to. He's usually shooting pretty low def stuff, but not this time.
So it was just kind of funny because I'm like, yes, he might live. Because the Legionnaires do get some charges off, but because of the Legionnaires' positioning and everything, you don't get many attacks from the War Spears either. So Discordia ends up surviving this initial onslaught, but pretty soon you get Rhyas gets to do some work. This is a terrifying part of this list too, is that in spite of everything else that you've got, like the War Spears and everything, you've got Rhyas there, who just charges in stuff and just like, all right, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah. I fought against a Scorn list once where he had 2 brutes, and he kind of jammed my War Spears up with them, just random. They're kind of hard to kill. They're armor 18, depth 13 with set defense.
Mhm.
So he charged one of them, killed it, took its fury because it was full, killed the other one, and then sprinted back.
I forgot. I always forget she can take Fury. That is so weird. Then whenever she kills something.
Yeah, actually, this is kind of an interesting point. So I missed that shot, but Blightbringer was still able to get far enough forward to give Rhyas the strength buff
Hmm.
for when she charged in. Um, that's that bubble's really big. It's
5 inches from Blightbringer and a 5-inch AoE, right?
yes, within 5 inches too, not completely within. So it's really like 6 inches for a small base, 6.5 for mediums.
So if you got Rhyas trying to target something, she just the target just has to be within about 8 inches of
Yeah, 8 inches of
Blightbringer.
Blightbringer, and Rhyas doesn't even need Blightbringer to shoot. It's it's Blightbringer. He's so good.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because he doesn't do a lot of direct work. He just makes everything else better. So you end up killing Discordia and sprinting back almost to the exact same spot where you were. And I kind of walk up and my models are able to make some attacks, but I don't have a really great volume of attacks with this list anymore. With the halberdiers kind of thrown away a little bit. Um, And so they're going to kind of scoot up and just punch some guys. Uh, they're kind of tough too. So even though Discordia hits at base POW 20, POW 22 with the concentrated power, um, I'm still needing sixes to hit, and they've got set defense too, don't they?
Uh, yeah,
War spears.
they all actually have set defense. The
So you don't
Legion.
want to charge the list unless you're very high pet mat, and shooting the list is hard because they're all armor 18 or whatever, and it's just a tricky list to deal with if you don't have
Yeah,
the right volume attacks.
yeah. And an interesting thought one day about the war spears is how hard they hit, and a kind of way to illustrate it. Each one of them is hits as hard as a fully loaded juggernaut. With when you have the Black Fresh Shard on the list.
Yeah, and without the Black Frost Shard, if they hit their prey target, they hit as hard as a Scythian.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
that's
at Mat 10 or Mat 9.
I'm at 9 because sure, that's okay. So they're able to do a lot, and here you actually use your trick where you got a shredder from the pot. You just run him up in there, and then Blightbringer shoots him and just obliterates him. That poor little shredder just dies instantly. It's kind of great. But you get to place the ring exactly where you want, which is important because this turn you say, I wonder if I can kill Hyperion and Imperatus in this turn. Um, you get a couple of charges off from the War Spears, but it's just kind of amazing because you actually do manage to kill both of these jacks, which are pretty tough. Hyperion's got 62 boxes, armor 19,
Yeah.
um, and Imperatus has got 51 boxes after the Phoenix Field happens. So it's kind of an impressive feat that you're able to just charge in and kill both of them. And after that, like the game's just completely over because I don't really have anything else on my list.
Right. So I was playing a game against Fiora 2 at one point, and one unit of War Spears under Rhyas' feet charged a uh, full health Reckoner, and then one half charged the Reckoner, one half charged Judicator. Killed the Reckoner, swapped Prey over to the Judicator, left Judicator with 10 boxes. It was one unit of War Spears.
Just one unit. That it's really kind of impressive just how much they can do. But as you said, they are still scared of like infantry spam.
Yep.
Um, and of course, the age-old Legion question, we've come up with kind of an interesting new list from a new model is it better than the other options that you've got out there? What about
It's probably not. I don't know if it's better than Veil 1. It's different than Veil 1.
which is
Um,
important?
just it's
Yeah.
it's weak to it's not doesn't have the same weaknesses that list has. So we've already mentioned Runes of War a lot, but it's such a Legion boogeyman. Um, one of the big tools that Runes of War has against Veil 1 is Rampager, um, where you can, even if your beasts are spread out well, or if you're using Dark Sentinel to protect them, you can just walk them out, or walk two beasts together so that Mull can get two beasts, and that's bad. That's usually the end of the game.
Yeah.
um, this list isn't susceptible to that at all. Dash is really good. It's basically a heavy gun line, so being able to disengage with Dash or just go further with Dash is really good. Her feat is very good with this list. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting enough, you didn't even have to feat in the game that we played because you didn't need to get the repositioning. You just needed you just had enough hits.
Yeah, actually the feat gives them an extra melee attack.
Oh, that's right. You did use that the last one then. So
Yep.
you did use it to get more attacks, and then I mean you removed effectively two colossals because those guys are not easy to hit or to kill.
Right. Yeah. No, it's the feat is for this list. The feat's more for the extra melee attack, not the positioning.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, do you think you'd revisit Rearguard still considering the? I mean, Blightbringer's louder than Rearguard, right?
Yeah, he is, and I've seen someone run it with Blightbringer and Typhon
Hmm.
Rearguard. Um, I don't know. You have to take swordsmen instead of legionnaires or raptors, and they're okay. They don't have reach, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
You don't have access to the Black Frost Shard, which means it still hits really hard, but it just doesn't really. I don't know if I think it would struggle with the really top tier, meat mountain type armor SKUs.
Whereas this is more tailored specifically to go against, Meat Mountain, Runes of War,
Well,
trolls, tough stuff.
yeah, or Bradigus or something like that.
Oh,
With
have you tried this
ADR,
into Bradigus as well?
I haven't.
Oh, well, that'll be interesting to see because it does seem like it would have, the type of high-powered attacks to kind of cut through some of that armor.
It would. It's interesting though because it would actually struggle with line of sight, which is something Legion usually doesn't have to worry about.
So the clouds are useful for once.
Yeah, now the Pathfinder wouldn't matter because everything's got relentless
Relentless
charge,
charge,
but
yeah.
the line of sight could affect things, which would suck.
Oh, and one more question is, has the Blightbringer yet made a melee attack?
Yes,
Oh,
he
really?
has.
It has. Because I remember this game, you were like, it's never attacked. It's only shot.
So in the game that I talked about earlier against Fiora 2, I killed a Reckoner, I killed Adjudicator. He's got like a Vanquisher and half a unit of Zealots left. So he just kind of chips in. We're going to try and kill the Blightbringer, then call the game. Uh, the Vanquisher and Fiora get there and leave it with like 12 boxes, which is something we haven't talked about yet. But this thing's actually kind of tanky for a Legion Beast. It's kind of nice.
Armor 19?
Armor 19 with 52 boxes.
That's more than anything else you've got. I mean, it is a gargantuan, of course, but still, that is.
Now, even Gargantuans are usually. I mean, Archangel's armor 18 with 46 boxes.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
What armor plus the, what is it, 6 points of health?
Yep, and then you can tenacity it up to 20. So
Yeah.
it's
pretty intimidating. After playing that, I kind of had to think about that myself, and I think there's definitely things that I could have done within this game, and then some dice if it had gone better would have helped. But like, it's not at all what I expected to have to face because that list I've liked into Legion in general, just kind of the thought of it. Um, I haven't practiced it as much as I'd like specifically in the Legion, but it was just a really odd thing to see from Legion. Who does a medium or a meat mountain in Legion? Apparently, Rhyas does.
Yeah, no. I played actually last year. I played kind of a meat mountain style list with Callus, with units of Warspears, Gatorman Posse, and Raptors. And this just turns that style of list turns it on.
Yeah.
I hit really hard. But anyway, back to your question. He made melee attacks to kill Fiora.
Good. He's made it once.
Done it once. The bite and the tail, they work. So we've checked it.
All right. Well, thank you and good luck. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.